welcome to your Friday, May 14th edition of the SVG-TV News. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Sinclair Prince, said the new target for SVG to achieve herd immunity against COVID-19 by having 70% of the population vaccinated is likely to be April 2022. The minister made this announcement in Parliament on Tuesday after Leader of the Opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, asked him to give an update on the vaccination drive and reaching the target of 75 to 80% of the population being vaccinated, thus achieving herd immunity. The opposition leader also asked the minister about the implications for the country if the vaccination target is not reached.
Original projections, Madam Speaker, was October to December 2021. And in the circumstances, of course, as I just mentioned, at the current pace, approximately April 2022. And the last part of the question, with respect to the implications, persistent spread of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that's one, and therefore greater risk of health services becoming overwhelmed, as there's a greater risk again of hospitalization and loss of life, and of course another negative impact on the general socio-economic state of the country. Before the last eruption, Madam Speaker, we were seeing some of the economic challenges that we faced as a result of COVID. Thank you very much.
3 months after administering the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines in SVG, just over 13,000 persons have taken the jab, with 3,000 already taking the second dose. So says Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Kieser-Beach, who is not pleased with the numbers and pointed out that the vaccination drive was impacted by the La Soufrière eruption. However, they are hoping to ramp up the vaccination drive now that things seemed to have quieted down.
Drive took a hit with the eruption of Soufrière, so a lot of our outreach activities had to be stopped because we could no longer be driving out. We had the problem with ash and also the resources. Persons who would normally be doing that, we now are managing shelters. So mainly a lot of the vaccine uptake right now are persons getting their second dose. So if I can refer to my numbers, right now we have given about 16,285 doses of vaccines, but of that only about 13,000 persons, okay? So we have about 13,500 around there, a little higher than that, persons have actually received a dose. And that is way below what we would need. However, we are still thankful that we have that level and we are encouraged to move forward to restart some of the outreach.
The CMO said that vaccine hesitancy remains high for varying reasons, noting that most of the vaccines already in the state are expected to expire at the end of the month. The CMO said they are hoping to get more vaccines from COVAX on an exchange arrangement.
However, we are still thankful that we have that level and we are encouraged to move forward to restart some of the outreach so that we can get it going again. You know, redo our messaging, more targeting. Persons have been under a lot of stress and probably a lot of the resistance now is not necessarily resistance to the idea of being vaccinated or the worrying aspect that we have noticed about refusing to be tested, but the whole recognition of our persons in St. Vincent having endured quite a lot.
The CMO also reported that there have been no COVID-19 deaths there have been no COVID-19 vaccine deaths in SVG, and pointed out that persons can take the second dose after 4 weeks of taking the first. Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname are the 3 CARICOM countries that have been categorized as very high risk for COVID-19. This is phase 13 of the entry protocols to SVG, which came into effect on May 6th, revised by the SVG COVID-19 Task Force. The Chief Medical Officer said that the COVID-19 Task Force has been carefully monitoring the increase in COVID-19 cases in these countries.
And these are countries also that have reported the presence of those dangerous variants because of the increased activity also, not just of the presence of the variants, but also the level of disease activity. That's what put them into the very high risk.
There are 9 other countries in the high-risk category. They are India, South Africa, Brazil, Ecuador, Colombia, Belize, Mexico, Argentina, and Peru.
Throughout the world, we are having many variants. Of particular concern would be the South African variant and the Brazilian variant. Initially, we had Brazil and South Africa alone in the very high risk, but in reality, anybody traveling from those countries passes through other countries, and those are the countries we have added, because those other countries are also high risk in terms of for transmission. So we have added the countries around those.
In this new phase, persons coming from high-risk countries must arrive with a negative result of a COVID-19 PCR test done no more than 72 hours or 3 days before arrival. And travelers must also mandatorily quarantine for 21 days in a Tourism Authority Ministry of Health approved transition quarantine hotel at their own cost. They will be retested on day 7 and day 14 of quarantine. Travelers arriving from countries categorized as high risk will quarantine for 14 days, and from medium risk countries, the quarantine period will be 7 days. Travelers from low-risk countries such as Anguilla, Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, and St. Kitts and Nevis will not be quarantined, but must arrive with a negative PCR test done 72 hours prior to arrival. Travelers who are vaccinated must arrive with a negative PCR test, will be retested on arrival, and must mandatorily quarantine for 48 hours as they await the results of the entry screening before being discharged. With some students and teachers returning to face-to-face teaching on Monday, May 17th, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves is appealing to teachers to take the COVID-19 vaccine and get tested. In a circular to teachers prior to the explosive eruption of La Soufrière, they were informed that they would be tested every 2 weeks once they have not been vaccinated. On radio today, PM Gonsalves stressed the importance of getting tested or vaccinated.
The grade 6 in the primary school and the Form 5s are going back to school on Monday, different classrooms, and they're informed through the Ministry of Education and through the principals. The list is known to the principals and through that to the parents. And I think they'll put more advertisement on it today. They've done it already. But one of the important things I want persons to the teachers and students, I want the teachers, those who haven't yet taken the test, please take the test. Those teachers who haven't vaccinated, please take the vaccine.
PM Gonsalves said while he's urging teachers to get vaccinated and tested, he's also asking parents allow their children who are under 18 to get tested.
You know, that is the surest bulwark against the surest way in which we can prevent the transmission, and also for a person to get sick and for you and worse, for you to die from it. So I'm asking the teachers, get tested, and take the vaccine. And for the children under the age of 18, the students under the age of 18, I'm asking their parents to allow them to be tested.
4 new positive COVID-19 cases were reported from 98 samples processed on Wednesday, resulting in a positivity rate of 4.1%. 2 of the 4 new cases are linked to emergency shelters. 5 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 151 cases are currently active and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 1,932 cases of COVID-19 and 1,769 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. The public is urged to continue to use masks, sanitize, physically distance, and get vaccinated to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Parnell Randolph Campbell QC was laid to rest yesterday following a state funeral. At the Methodist Church, there were more than 20 contributions made, all reflecting the life and legacy of Campbell, including glowing tributes from his family, friends, and colleagues. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and former Prime Minister Sir James Mitchell also paid tributes to a man whom they said they had great respect for. They both spoke of Campbell's kindness, love for country, and indelible contributions to nation building.
In his death, collectively we are saying, this is an honored one who has been among us. Not perfect, as Arusha has said, but a gem, a pearl. Not greater than the tribe, but has made the tribe greater.
The first complete revision, compilation of our laws into one series of volumes made life easier for the legal profession, and it was done under the leadership of Parnell as Minister of Justice.
Concluding his tribute, Prime Minister Gonsalves joked that he hoped Campbell does not summon him before his time.
I hope that PR doesn't have a conversation with Peter and summon me to meet him too soon. Because, my dear brother, I have some unfinished business which you and I have started. We have to complete them. On behalf of the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, on my own behalf and that of my family.
Campbell's 6 children also paid tribute to their beloved father. His daughter Arusha delivered the eulogy and said that on his dying bed, her father had the country at heart.
Although he seemed to be recovering during his admission to the intensive care unit, a few hours before his death, Daddy's last words to my brother Daniel were inquiring about the effects of the La Soufrière volcano and how recovery efforts were going. He reminded him to keep helping those in need and make sure the family is safe, protected, and united. The night of his death, Daddy and I chatted on the phone. He was his usual jovial self. He seemed to be making a great clinical turnaround.
Dad was always a man ahead of his time. And sadly, he had prophesied that he feels that constitutional reform may never happen until he passes, until after he passes. He said that to me and I rebuked him. Sadly, he was right. But I hope in his memory it is something that we can look again.
Campbell's wife and widow, Julie Campbell, said her husband stayed true to himself by doing good to others as the Lord asked of him.
If you know you didn't like him, you hated him, he didn't mind. He did what was right. He did what was right. And we were maybe standing next to him here the last time on earth. But I am confident that we're going to meet again. We are going to be united again, glory to God, on that resurrection day. We will be caught up together to meet the Lord in the air. PR, I will see you again. Rest in peace. I love you.
Vincentian students across all campuses of the University of the West Indies will benefit from a reduction in their fees by 50% and higher in special cases over the next year. This announcement was made by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves at a news conference earlier today, speaking on the agreement with UWI's Vice-Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles. The reduction applies to first-time students and those continuing their studies at the UWI.
They have taken a decision to make some special provisions for Vincentian students, that in respect of students who are going in for the new academic year and students who are already there at all the campuses, they will provide relief on fees for the next year, generally up to 50%, and that they may well go higher in specific cases which they would address on a case-by-case basis.
Students at the UWI's open campus will also benefit from a reduction in fees.
And in relation to the students who are at open campus, they would give 25% reduction of the fees there, and in certain circumstances may go higher on a case-by-case basis.
The Prime Minister also shared that the reduction in fees extends to students' accommodation fees for persons staying in university-operated housing.
I should point out not only the university fees, but they would also do the same thing in relation to the campus accommodation. That is to say, in the campus accommodation units owned and operated by the university. Because I think some in Jamaica are privately, some are operated by the university, some are owned privately and operated by the private entity there. And they will try to keep them naturally in those where it's operated by the university.
Prime Minister Gonzalez said the reduction in fees will be a big help to Vincentian students. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Gonzalez also used the opportunity to speak about concerns raised by the president of the Vincentian Students Association at the UWI's Cave Hill campus, Chanel Lampkin, for Vincentian students in Barbados. The PM gave the assurance that the reduction in fees will apply to students who opt to stay on campus over the holiday period, as they would otherwise be displaced upon returning home.
In relation to the one matter which you raised about whether students who are at Cave Hill, who for one reason or the other would like to remain there, that they would get the same 50% off. That is to say, over the holiday period, because of the volcano, they may not have anywhere to come. And in relation to the Pacific student, which was you asked about, who was not well and who has to remain there, that person can get further relief.
He also noted that for students returning home to SVG, some aid will be given to facilitate their stay in quarantine.
To those who want to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and who obviously they're all persons who they hadn't started to give the younger folk the vaccine, and they have to quarantine, depending on their situation, for 7 or 14 days. We would provide some relief to the government. I don't know the actual numbers. I have to find that out from Chanel Lampkin. These are people from the red zone and the orange zone. These are students who are returning and who don't have access to their homes. And of course, there are those who in their situation where the protocol will say that they need to go into a quarantined establishment. We'll have to help. But I want to know what the numbers are so that I can see what is the extent of the help in that regard.
U.S. Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Her Excellency Linda Tagliatella, today announced that the United States government will make a $3.8 million donation to the United Nations Appeal Fund in support of Vincentians affected by the explosive eruption of La Soufrière. Ambassador Tagliatella was speaking at a news conference today, hosted by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez at Cabinet Room.
It's been a great pleasure today to announce that the United States is giving $3.8 billion for emergency assistance to the people affected by the eruption of the volcano. This new assistance, which comes through USAID, adds to the United States' ongoing commitment to help with the assistance, and it increases our contributions to $5 million. We began our efforts with the first signs that the volcano was starting to make noise by bringing seismic equipment, setting up a station, and helping and collaborating with the University of West Indies on tracking what the volcano might be doing. Since then, we have continued to contribute to international partners to provide assistance to St. Vincent.
Her Excellency says the monies donated will facilitate access to emergency supplies such as food, safe drinking water, hygiene kits, etc. through the U.S. humanitarian partners on the ground. These groups, she said, will help to ensure proper utilization and distribution of the resources.
Today, the $3.8 million will go to important things such as allowing for access to emergency food, to safe drinking water, and to hygiene kits. Also, it will provide an avenue for which we can better facilitate the movement of supplies, presenting additional support to the infrastructure, and it will also give us the opportunity to help work with St. Vincent in its road to recovery. We are donating the money through the UN appeal. The money will be handed to our humanitarian partners, which are the World Food Program, the International Red Cross, UNICEF, and PAHO. We will work with them on the use of the money and maintaining and monitoring the programs.
In addition to the pledge of $3.8 million the United States Southern Division has also pledged $4 million to SVG, particularly for the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, for training, equipment, and renovations.
For our humanitarian assistance program, the United States Southern Command has committed $4 million to St. Vincent and NEMO for training and equipment, the renovation of a shelter and warehouse, and the donation of 2 field hospitals, which will be available in case of further natural disasters.
Prime Minister Gonzalez thanked Ambassador Tagliatella and the United States government for the continued commitment to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He added that based on the donations made, the U.S. would have covered just about 30% of the $29.2 million goal set by the United Nations as part of the Global Appeal Fund for SVG, launched 3 weeks ago following the eruption. Representative of the CARICOM Operational Support Team of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, Sylvan McIntyre, said that the situation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is far from over. Hence, they recognize there will be a greater need for ongoing support. He said one of the major tasks is to ensure that there is transparency, accountability, and equity in the distribution of relief items.
The fact that we do have some threats existing in the red zone and to an extent to the orange zones, people will not be going back anytime soon to occupy all of these zones. That's a given. And so understanding this, we recognize that there will be a need for ongoing support. And there would be need for transparency, accountability, and equity in the distribution of relief items. And so our partners came together to ensure that a system is established. And today we have seen some major tents, massive tents set up on the Annesville hub. And that tent is to ensure that items that come into the country, they are properly accounted for, they are sorted, stored in some instances, and distributed across country. It is both for the physical and the paperwork has to be undertaken.
McIntyre said that since the team came to SVG, they were able to roll out a system at the logistics hub at the decommissioned E.T. Joshua Airport tarmac at Arnesville. He said they're hoping for success from the pilot project.
We're able to roll out an electronic system, the SEDEMA logistics system, for the first time, rolling out in one of our countries. It's a pilot activity that we're seeing here. It has started sometime before it was initiated, but never took off. And so this is considered a pilot for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're hoping to see the success coming out of it. We are proud to have been associated with it. The support we're getting from civil servants, from volunteers, the cadet force, the police force, it is tremendous. And so once the system is up, true, it has been in the relief emergency phase, it is going to be going through the rehabilitation and definitely into the reconstruction phase, because we are expecting that more assistance would come. Despite an appeal for cash assistance, which is totally relevant, we believe that material goods and other types of food will be coming, and there will be need to be able to coordinate and distribute and account for.